Thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
7 minutes ago, the former First Lady Melania Trump has come forward with details that are causing a stir among Christians everywhere. Let's uncover the depth of what Melania Trump describes as a critical message to believers. What are these terrifying details? And why now? The answers to these questions may just change how we view the intersection of personal faith and public life in America. Now let's get something straight. When it comes to faith and beliefs, her husband, former President Donald Trump, has certainly made his rounds in the media spotlight. But here's where the plot thickens. Melania Trump, with her grace and poise, has kept her personal faith somewhat of an enigma. And boy, does that pique our curiosity, especially around the holiday season, when the White House transforms into a winter wonderland under her direction. Questions bubble up. Is Melania Trump religious? How does her faith influence her life and her role as the First Lady? Well, let me tell you. The answers might just surprise you. While the world has been busy dissecting Donald's religious affiliations, Melania's faith has been flying under the radar. But apparently Melania Trump is a practicing Catholic. This revelation came out of the blue for many when, in a moment that felt like a scene from a film, she asked the Pope to bless her rosary during a visit in 2017. For those in the know, having the Pope bless your rosary is kind of a big deal in the Catholic faith. It's like getting a spiritual high five from the big guy himself. But wait, there's more. Remember their big, flashy wedding in 2005? While the venue was an Episcopal church, Melania brought a touch of her Catholic roots to the ceremony. Instead of walking down the aisle with the usual bouquet of flowers, she chose a rosary. Now, if that doesn't scream faith is important to me, I don't know what does. It shows us that beneath the quiet exterior lies a strong connection to her Catholic roots, something that's both personal and profound. Now, fast forward a bit, and we find Melania Trump stepping back from the limelight. After the whirlwind of Washington, she's been embracing a quieter life, making very few public appearances. It's almost like she's taken a step into a more private chapter, focusing on life beyond the constant buzz of the political sphere. But here's where the plot takes a twist. Despite her retreat from public life and previously saying she wasn't keen on a White House comeback, Melania surprised many by throwing her support behind Donald Trump's potential run in 2024. In a rare appearance on Fox News, she made it clear, "He has my support." It's like a moment in a movie where the character you've been rooting for decides to jump back into the action, ready to face whatever comes next with a blend of hope, love, and strength. While Melania Trump has seemingly taken a step back from the whirlwind world of politics, her recent moves tell us there's more to the story. Imagine her as the character in a movie who, after a period of silence, steps back into the spotlight with a message that grabs everyone's attention. Her endorsement of Donald Trump's potential 2024 run is like a scene where the supportive partner acknowledges the lead character's mission, reinforcing the idea of a united front. It's not just about standing by her man. It's about recognizing the impact he's had and can continue to have on the political landscape. Melania's saying, yes, he's the one to lead, and she's backing him up, despite her preference for staying out of the fray. But wait, there's a heartwarming subplot here too. Melania isn't just stepping up to say, I support my husband. She's also reiterating her commitment to something close to her heart, the well-being and development of children. Think of her as a hero in her own right, determined to make the world a better place for kids. It's a passion that's not new. It's been a consistent thread throughout her time in the spotlight, showcasing her dedication to uplifting and advocating for the youth. If Donald Trump makes his way back to the presidency, she's ready to continue this crucial work, adding a layer of compassion and purpose to their political narrative. In a powerful video shared for the 2024 campaign, Donald Trump takes center stage as a man on a divine mission. The narrative here is bold and compelling, portraying him as a leader chosen by God to guide America through its trials and triumphs. We see clips of him signing executive orders, engaging in high-stakes dialogues with world leaders, and, alongside Melania, boarding Air Force One. All moments that paint him as the guardian of the nation's future. This isn't your everyday political ad. It's a narrative that frames Trump as someone chosen by the man upstairs himself, tasked with guiding and protecting the nation. It's like casting Trump in the role of a modern-day hero, echoing tales of legendary leaders who were called upon to lead their people through tumultuous times. This idea resonates deeply with many of Trump's supporters, drawing comparisons to figures like Cyrus the Great. They see America as a country with deep Christian roots, and they're passionate about getting back to that foundation. This video taps into the belief that choosing leaders with strong moral convictions can steer the country in the right direction. It's a powerful message, especially for those who see their faith as a guiding principle in both their lives and their politics. Now, shifting gears to Melania Trump, the enigmatic First Lady whose faith has been something of a mystery. Recently, though, we've started to see the veil lift, revealing her Catholic faith and how it influences her life. Despite her penchant for privacy, Melania's backing of Donald Trump's potential 2024 run has sparked a lot of conversations. It's clear she's committed to issues close to her heart, like the welfare and development of children, continuing her work from her time in the White House. As Trump gears up for another possible run, all eyes are on Melania, wondering what role she'll play this time around. Her support challenges the image of her as distant from the political arena, suggesting she might be more involved than people think. It's a fascinating twist that adds depth to her public persona and invites us to consider the interplay between personal faith and political action. This situation brings us to a broader discussion, one that scholars and pundits have been wrestling with. Why does Trump, with his unorthodox approach and lifestyle, continue to hold such a firm grip on conservative Christian voters? It's a complex puzzle, involving a mix of policy positions, longing for a past era, and influential voices framing Trump as a leader chosen for such a time as this. One big reason why many conservative Christians rally behind Mr. Trump is that his policies line up neatly with their core values. We're talking about hot-button issues like being against abortion, championing religious freedom, and putting conservative judges on the Supreme Court. For a lot of folks, these policies are crucial. They see them as the bedrock for preserving their religious beliefs and lifestyle. Then, there's this powerful longing for the good old days. Some people really miss a time when white Christians were more dominant in American culture, where their beliefs were the norm and held a lot of sway. Trump's "Make America Great Again" slogan struck a chord with these individuals, speaking directly to those who felt pushed aside in a rapidly changing diverse society. Enter Lance Wow in 2016, who threw a fascinating curveball into the mix. He claimed God showed him that the next president would be a modern-day Cyrus. That's the Persian king from the Bible who was chosen by God. Despite Trump not fitting the typical evangelical mold, Wow tagged him as this era's Cyrus. According to Matthew Taylor from the Institute for Islamic, Christian, and Jewish Studies, many believers see Trump as God's pick to pull conservative Christianity back from the margins. Wow and his followers are all about taking on the spiritual showdown with demons they believe are lurking behind the scenes, influencing various parts of society. They picture society as a mountain landscape, with each peak representing a different sector like media, government, and education. Their goal? To storm these mountains, battling the demonic forces to bring them under God's rule. It's a narrative that calls for a shakeup in traditional church leadership, suggesting that what's really needed are apostolic figures. Dynamic, spiritually charged leaders ready to lead the charge against these societal demons. This approach isn't without its controversies, especially within the broader Christian community. It challenges conventional church hierarchies, arguing that charismatic leaders with a knack for spiritual warfare are the key to winning back society for God. It's a bold vision, aiming to overthrow demonic control and establish divine authority across America, one mountain at a time. Gauging the exact size of the apostolic movement is a bit like trying to nail jelly to a wall. Tricky, to say the least. But there's a buzz around non-denominational churches that's hard to ignore. These churches are a big part of the apostolic scene. And, believe it or not, they're the only slice of Christianity in the US that's actually getting bigger. The movement's got some serious traction. A survey from 2023 turned up that a whole quarter of Americans are on board with the idea of modern-day prophets and prophecies, which is music to the ears of the apostolic crowd. Now, when it comes to politics, these apostles aren't just sitting on the sidelines. They're jumping right into the fray, mostly teaming up with the Republican Party and cheering on folks like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, and Mike Johnson. They see Trump as a key player in their mission, almost like a chess piece in a divine strategy game, aiming to take over different areas of society. During his time in office, Trump even had what you might call a spiritual security detail, made up of apostolic leaders ready to shield him from all sorts of spiritual shenanigans. There were plenty of prophecies floating around about his re-election in 2020, and a big chunk of Americans truly believed he was picked by the heavens for the job. White evangelicals were a powerhouse in pushing Trump to victory, showing up in droves at the polls in 2016 and again in 2020. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Some Christian leaders are scratching their heads over Trump's approach to things like abortion and his grasp, or lack thereof, on religious details. The race for the 2024 Republican nomination is heating up, and the battle to win over conservative white evangelicals is on like never before. Trump's grip on this group has been solid, thanks to his massive support in past elections. But now, some of his rivals are trying to shake things up. They're poking at concerns over Trump's religious depth and his stance on key issues, hoping to sway evangelical voters by claiming to be closer to their core values. Now, here's the scoop on Trump. He's seen by many as a champion for evangelical causes, particularly noted for his stance against abortion. With the 2024 election drawing closer, drawing a line in the sand on abortion has become the ultimate test for candidates. Trump's bond with conservative evangelicals isn't just about shared beliefs, it's deeper, built on a foundation of trust and fulfilled promises. His moves, like nominating Supreme Court justices who played a role in challenging Roe v. Wade, have made him a hero in the eyes of many in this community. Trump's record is packed with actions that sing to the hearts of conservative evangelicals. From declaring Jerusalem the capital of Israel to moving the U.S. Embassy there, he's shown he's not just all talk. His approach, marked by a fierce commitment to fight for the values dear to Christian right activists, has secured him a place of loyalty among many evangelicals. Despite some side-eyes in the past, his focus on action over words and his crucial role in the Roe v. Wade conversation have firmly positioned him as a favorite among conservative evangelicals, reshaping how they view his legacy and impact. Donald Trump has a unique charm that really clicks with conservative Christians. It's a mix of his policies mirroring their core values, a yearning for what some see as better days gone by, and the boost from voices like Lance Wallow, who hailed Trump as the modern-day Cyrus picked by God. This blend has solidified his standing with folks who might usually raise an eyebrow at his unconventional ways. Christian nationalism is making waves in the Republican Party, powered by folks who lean into far-right theories and see Trump's opponents as against divine will. This belief system, painting the country as in a kind of cultural showdown, has rallied people around Trump as the hero ready to defend American principles. In the lead-up to 2024, a group known for its staunch support of Trump is kicking things into high gear. They're laying down plans to drum up evangelical support in key battleground states. Think of Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, Ohio, and Pennsylvania as the stages for this big push to get Trump back in the running. Pastors for Trump might be just a glimpse of a bigger movement that sees the 45th president in a divine light, blending MAGA enthusiasm with deep religious conviction. This mix isn't new, but Trump has become the face of it, representing a unique intersection of cultural conservatism and spiritual passion. Donald Trump has a knack for lighting a fire under his supporters, sparking a level of fervor that goes beyond simple political backing. For a good number of devout Christians, their support for Trump has morphed into something more intense, almost like a religious zeal. Trump's way of speaking, loaded with strong emotions, pointing fingers, and rallying against opponents, has somehow become a part of how some of his followers define their Christian identity. This shift is a bit of a head-scratcher, showing how political views are starting to overshadow religious beliefs for some folks in the Christian community. Trump's stamp on Christian nationalism is pretty hard to miss. He's become somewhat of a hero to a group of die-hard conservatives, and it doesn't really matter if they're regular churchgoers or just tuning into conservative media from the comfort of their living rooms. Trump's impact has really muddled the waters between what's seen as civic duty and religious duty, pushing some of his most zealous followers to think acting out, even violently, is okay if they believe they're defending their values. Now, if Trump makes his way back to the Oval Office with the backing of conservative Christians, we're going to have to take a hard look in the mirror. It's going to be crucial to figure out what standing by Jesus really means for a lot of people. This moment of reflection is key to making sure that the essence of Christian values isn't lost to the whirlwind of political fervor. Keeping the teachings of Christ front and center is essential, especially if we want to avoid letting political agendas take the wheel of what should be a faith-driven journey. As Donald Trump steps up as the leading contender for the Republican presidential nomination this year, it's a pivotal moment for Americans to ponder what a second Trump term might mean for both the nation and the world at large. With Trump's unique journey from real estate mogul and TV star to president, he's certainly left his mark, sparking debates on what leadership looks like in today's age. Trump's style has always been about making bold moves, sometimes putting his personal stamp on decisions in ways that have stirred up strong feelings. He's a figure who's not afraid to shake things up, which has led to heated discussions about how power should be wielded and the importance of sticking to democratic traditions and the rule of law. Looking at what another term under Trump could bring, it's clear the stakes are high. His first term saw moments that challenged the very foundations of the presidency and had a significant impact on the nation, intensifying political divides and bringing conversations about American identity and values to the forefront. But let's not forget, navigating the Trump presidency wasn't just about weathering the storms he stirred up. It was a time marked by the resilience of the American people and the robustness of its institutions. From dealing with the global pandemic to maintaining democratic principles, it was the effort of dedicated individuals within his own administration and across the political spectrum that demonstrated the enduring strength of America's democratic spirit. As voters look ahead, the choice they face isn't just about policies or party lines. It's about the direction they want the country to take and the values they hold dear. It's a time for reflection and decision, with the future of the nation and its place in the world hanging in the balance.
Biden's war on American energy has sent prices soaring, and his latest actions will make it catastrophically worse. It's going to be bad at a level that we've never seen. This will be so bad.
If we don't have anything that ties us together, when that day comes, and you know what I mean, when the economic crisis comes, because it's coming, like, what's that going to look like? It's going to be very scary.
Trump issues a chilling proclamation, vowing to thwart any attempts to rig the upcoming presidential election in 2024, echoing fears of electoral manipulation.
Our public obsessions are getting increasingly irrelevant, actually. Increasingly, it's like crazy.
Ton more than that statement of financial condition, and she doesn't know how to get out of it because her politics won't allow her. She calls him a bully. She says he's going to bring out racial slurs. He's going to say things today and taunt her. Well, Miss James, you taunted him. Before you came into office, before you saw one record, one statement of financial condition.
Elon delivers a sobering message, emphasizing the imperative of nurturing the next generation by encouraging childbirth and fostering a new era of human evolution.
And I think that perhaps my biggest advice to leaders, to government leaders, and to the people in general would be to make sure to have children to create the new generation. And I think any incentives that can be done to incent the new generation, to make it easier for women to have children and to support the children, I think would be very wise.
Revelations of corruption within the Biden family emerge, with Hunter Biden allegedly leveraging his father's influence to extract cash, exposing a web of deceit and exploitation.
Bobulinski met with Joe Biden twice, confirmed he was the big guy who called the shots. Joe Biden was for sale. The family desperately needed cash. Hunter shook them down with his dad in the room, got the cash, and then cut Tony out.
Shocking allegations surface implicating the Biden family in dubious Russian energy deals, raising concerns about clandestine dealings and potential national security implications.
It wasn't just China. The Biden family was tangled up with the Russians. We know about the Russian billionaire who had dinner with Joe and Hunter, wired him millions, and then left Biden off the sanctions list. But it was much bigger than that. The Biden family was brokering Russia-Chinese energy deals right under the FBI's noses.
Trump advocates for energy affordability and independence, stressing the importance of securing America's energy future amidst global uncertainties.
If America is going to dominate the world in manufacturing once again, as it did when I was running things, you remember when they used to say you can't have manufacturing jobs in our country anymore? I said, really, why? And we created hundreds of thousands of them. But we must be the most affordable energy and electricity place anywhere on the planet. We have to have affordable energy. Right now we have energy that's weak, substandard, and unaffordable. It's made by the wind. The windmills rust, they rot, they kill the birds. It's the most expensive energy there is. And we have other things that are also no good. It's called the Green New Deal. I call it the Green New Hoax. One of the reasons manufacturing jobs were flooding back into the United States when I was president was that we dramatically reduced energy costs. Sadly, crooked Joe Biden sacrificed this tremendous economic advantage on the altar of the Green New Deal, perhaps because he was bribed by Communist China or because Communist China knows all of the money that they've paid him. We have a Manchurian candidate. That's what he is. He's a Manchurian candidate. They know everything about him, and he's scared stiff. He won't do a thing. I take in hundreds of billions of dollars from China, and Joe Biden's afraid to even talk to him. Under Biden's newly proposed power plant regulations, most natural gas and coal plants will be forced to shut down. By the way, they tried that in Germany, and now they're going back and building coal plants all over the place because they've destroyed Germany. They have no energy. So Germany now is building a coal plant every 2 weeks. And China is building a coal plant every week, every single week. They're putting up a new coal plant.
Biden's identity politics come under scrutiny, with Trump mocking his purported ethnic and religious affiliations, questioning the authenticity of his public persona.
For 364 days of the year, Joe Biden goes around Washington telling everybody he's a Puerto Rican truck-driving Jewish professor who was raised in a black church. But once a year, every year, Biden taps into his roots. He's an Irishman. There's no holiday the president loves more than St. Patrick's Day. It's the one day of the year he doesn't have to pretend. He just tells folktales from the old country.
Biden's nepotism scandal deepens as allegations surface of using burner phones and aliases to conceal illicit dealings, casting a shadow over the integrity of the presidency.
Fannie charged Trump with RICO in Georgia, AOC. So if RICO's not a crime, I guess Trump's fine. But honestly, Biden flies his son around the world to cut deals, invites his son's partners to the White House, has phone calls and meetings with them, drops sanctions on them, greases regs for them, gets their kids into colleges, and he gets his entire extended family, from sons, brothers to grandkids, paid millions? Cars, cash, diamonds, expensive scotch? And he uses an alias? Joe Biden uses an alias. They use burner phones to talk. Biden's donors paid his family's back taxes. Could Don Jr. stiff the IRS and his dad's donors square it up before an election? Come on. Investigators have delivered eyewitness testimony, bank records, mountains of circumstantial evidence, plus motive, physical evidence, digital communications, photographs, voicemails.
The looming energy crisis intensifies as Biden's policies shutter power plants, leaving America vulnerable and dependent on foreign sources for its energy needs.
And we're playing games with the wind. This is terrible what's happening to our country. There is nothing to replace our energy at this time, not even close. It's very expensive and it's very weak. It doesn't have the power to power up those big plants that you see. At the same time as Biden is shutting down existing power plants, he also wants to force hundreds of millions of Americans into ultra expensive electric vehicles. It costs twice as much as what you have. And what you have is better, and it goes a lot longer. And it's a lot easier to fill up. And we have liquid gold under our feet at a level that no other country has. But they'll strain the grid to the breaking point. It already is at a breaking point. If you look at California, it's got brownouts and blackouts every single day. People can't turn on their air conditioners. And it'll drive electricity prices into the stratosphere. If Biden's policies go forward, our electricity costs will be the highest on earth. They're already very close, with shortages, blackouts, and crippling inflation.
Legal turmoil ensues in the wake of the Fani Willis scandal, with Democrats facing an ultimatum from the judiciary amidst mounting evidence of malfeasance.
The president's always felt the luck of the Irish. His whole career, he's failed up. But today wasn't his lucky day. A judge gave Democrats the sweetest ultimatum after a scandal rocked one of their biggest cases. Either DA Fani Willis steps down, jeopardizing the whole Trump case in Georgia, or lover boy Nathan Wade steps down and the case goes on. What do you think happened? Lover boy packed his bags. The Biden campaign may think this is a victory, but it's not.
Tucker Carlson sheds light on the plight of illegal immigrants, painting a grim picture of uncertainty and apprehension as they navigate the complexities of migration.
What does the majority of the country have in common with one another? Because look, if the arc of the last century's American history is super, super interesting. So you have this massive influx of immigration, the Ellis Island generation, late 18th, or 19th, early 20th century. And it's both good and bad. We only remember the good, but there was a lot of social volatility, like a lot. Like the mayor of Chicago got in his house. It was on Wall Street, like the Wobblies, the anarchists, like the foot soldiers that were immigrants, working class European immigrants. And part of the problem was there was just a lot of immigrants, and I mean, Sacco and Vanzetti, you know, who the clerk in, is it Brockton, Mass? Anyway, it was in Mass, outside Boston. They'd been in the country for just a few years, and they immediately got sucked into radical politics. Well, why was that? Well, because they weren't kind of bought in or rooted in or hadn't been fully assimilated into American society. So then you have the First World War, and we basically shut down immigration, and we have this period of settling where, like, all Americans, let's think through our civic religion, what ties us together, and then that leads into October of 29, and you do have this national crisis that lasts for more than a decade, and we had a successful, you know, the CCC. We like had these big programs, which I'll say this as a conservative, kind of worked in keeping people fed and focused, gave them purpose, kept the country from collapsing during the Great Depression.
So, said for me, I think I am objectively one of the world's leading environmentalists in terms of doing things.
I not say so.
Like, I'm an environmentalist who does things. I'm of action, not talk. I act. So I feel I can say, as an environmentalist, that the environmentalist movement has gone too far. And in that, in the natural extension of the environmentalist movement, if you go too far, you start to look at humanity as a bad thing. You start to look at humanity as though we are a plague on the surface of the earth, as though humanity is a bad thing. And in fact, there are some people who think and say explicitly that, in fact, there was on the front page of the New York Times, there was a guy who said, there are 8 billion people on earth. It would be better if there were none, which is crazy.
What we're going to do, number one, we'll have a lot of cash, but that doesn't mean he can take it. I mean, you know what he did? I think he looked at my cash and he said, well, we'll take all of his cash. This is all coming out of the White House. This is all, everything that you see, whether it's that one or the DA. You know, in the DA's office, in Bragg's office, he has his top people from the DOJ working in the district attorney's office in New York. Nobody knows that. Everything is coming out. This is all election interference. They're trying to damage me so they can win another election.
If I rear end your car and crease your bumper, I'm happy to jump out and say, I'm sorry, I can't believe I did that. But if I were to say invade under false pretenses and million people and spend $1 trillion of your dollars doing it, I wouldn't say a word. I would never admit that was a bad idea. I couldn't. It implicates me too profoundly. The same goes for if I say, locked your kids inside for a year and their brains and prevented them from getting an education. Or if I say, forced you to take a vax that didn't work, that very well might have hurt you. I could never admit that I did that. I just couldn't. Because if I admitted it, I'd have to suffer the consequences. Something very much like that is happening with, which has been in progress now for almost 2 years. We were told at the beginning that our support would allow you to beat Russia and keep Russia from invading the rest of Europe or something. Well, almost 2 years in, none of that has turned out to be true. It's not going to beat Russia. The only person who's been beaten in this is the United States. The U.S. is weaker, measurably weaker, because of our support for in this. That's just true. The verdict is in. And honest, rational people admit that, no matter what their previous position. But the Biden administration cannot admit that, and neither can the U.S. Congress. And so now there is, believe it or not, an effort in progress to get the U.S. government to send another $60-odd billion to the oligarchs in. So another generation of men, this one probably in their 50s, can in a pointless on. They're not going to win, but the U.S. Congress would like to keep this conflict going anyway.
This is not something you should import from America. Please don't import the woke mind virus. It's bad. So essentially that, to summarize maybe the woke mind virus, it consists of creating very divisive identity politics. So it actually amplifies woke mind virus, in my view, amplifies racism, amplifies, frankly, and all the isms. And while claiming to do the opposite, it actually divides people and makes them sort of hate each other, and it makes people hate themselves. And it's also anti-meritocratic. It's not merit-based. So you want to have people succeed based on how hard they work and the talents, not who they are, whether they're man, woman, what race or gender, that stuff is all creating, it's an artificial mental civil that is created. And it's not, and let me tell you, it's no fun, okay? It is like woke mind virus and fun are incompatible. There's no fun in that. No joy. Woke mind virus is all about condemning people instead of celebrating people. Like when in the woke, it just doesn't celebrate. It's all about condemning and being divisive and being just, I think it's just evil, frankly.
So that's kind of more diabolical than what we've seen in previous generations, and it's much more effective in a committedly polite country like Canada because you don't know that it's happening. And because a demagogue like that, or your completely bizarre, cross-dressing prime minister, it's true, Prime Minister Blackface, I didn't wear blackface, he did. He 3 times, thank you, 3 times, and I want to thank you for your commitment to the facts. The Prime Minister, right, the Prime Minister, there on your rights, which is on you and your children, is cloaked in the language of therapy, self-help, and compassion. You're doing this for the common good. Don't you care about the elderly? And of course, being a decent person, you care very deeply about the elderly and the weakest in your society, of course. So what you don't realize as you shuffle off to abandon another God-given right to a totalitarian government is that this is not being done on behalf of a marginalized group or the weakest among us or the elderly. They hijack the language of the gospel to crush the gospel. That's exactly what they're doing.
People ask me the question, and we're going to have inexpensive energy. That's going to help us get rid of this horrible inflation. You know, he really had 38% inflation. If you look at it over his term, it's 38%. Anybody that made anything, it doesn't matter because the inflation was greater than whatever they made. We're going to get prices down. We're going to bring this country back, but we're going to make America great again, greater than ever before, and we can still do it.